Hey, welcome everyone. Again, I'll mention it again. Master Carr's going to join us in just a few minutes, so hang on to the call. Hey, one of the questions that keeps popping up when we're working with you guys is this concern about attendance-based rank certification. Now, listen, if we visited this topic with you before, just bear with it, okay? Now, what we figured out was that traditional testing, and when I say the word traditional, what I'm referring to is a day and date certification of some type where you do your best to get all your students ready to get in front of a judging panel of some type to advance to their next rank. We've just realized after many years of doing our absolute best and trying to make that work, that there was a better way, and I'll explain it to you. But first, let me sort of give you a little insight on why a day and date certification may not be what's best for your business. All right, so follow me on this. First off, this whole rank advancement, the color belts is compared to martial arts, is a relatively new creation. It's a new invention. Ranks have only been awarded since the late 60s for the most part. So it really is a commercial idea to help students realize they're progressing from one level to the next to keep them entrenched in the training. However, that was created some 30, 40, 50 years ago, where if you had 70, 80 students, you were king of the kingdom. Where now, if you have a brick and mortar rented space, you might be broke. So I want you to realize that testing might be holding you back in terms of not just keeping students, but generating the income needed to run a successful operation. But let's look at the semantics of day and date testings. To have all your students ready to test on a particular date or over the course of a week, that creates some complications. One of which is the distraction. So whatever your testing cycle might be, I want everyone to just realize that typically about 2 weeks before your testing cycle begins, well, what are we doing? We're trying to get students ready for testing. We're trying to get them registered. We're trying to collect the money. So for 2 weeks prior to your testing event, you're not thinking about your normal business, which is to recruit, enroll, make certain you're delivering great classes so you can rapidly upgrade your students. So for 2 weeks out of each cycle, you're not there to care for your business at the front end as far as building membership. But it gets even worse. Once you have the testing, what typically happens is students take a break and you don't see them for another week or two. As a matter of fact, I know a few on the call after you've certified your students, you actually close the store down for a week. And yeah, listen, it's certainly your prerogative, but I want you to realize if you do the math, that may not be what's best. So let's go back and talk about the distraction. So for 2, 3 weeks out from testing, you're getting your students ready, you're getting them certified, you're having to register, you're collecting money. And then you have the event, and then a week later, things are a little wobbly. So about 3 weeks out of each cycle, you're not paying attention to your core business. We're not marketing accurately. We're not enrolling new students. We're certainly not upgrading. So if you test your students 4 or 5 times and you do the math, typically that means you are distracted 3, 4, and for some of us, 4.5 months from our normal business. And I think this goes unnoticed. But the truth of the matter is you need to enroll new students every single month and retain them by either renewing them or doing an upgrade. But if you're spending weeks during each testing cycle just getting students ready for tests, obviously that's the struggle. So, because if you go back and look at your income, you're going to realize that every time you have a testing cycle, it kind of dips. So we had to address that as a concern. How do we get everybody ready for testing without distracting ourselves? And we came up with this idea where maybe we need to figure out exactly what we want students to accomplish from white belt to the rank of black belt. And although we have a set curriculum, we had to put a time frame on it. So what we decided here in Jacksonville was that it takes 300 classes for a student to go from white to black belt. Now, if it takes 300 classes, what is it per rank? And what we decided here in Jacksonville was every rank required 30 classes, 30 class credits. Now, not only can they get a class credit because they come to a class, there might be additional credits earned if they come to a workshop or a seminar. If we can mute the gentleman. All right, so that being said, by allowing your students to progress based on attendance, everybody wins. First off, you're no longer distracting yourself by putting together that big dog and pony show as far as your certification or your actual testing. Second, everybody can get ready now. Everybody can progress at their own rate of speed, because one of the things that interrupts a student's training is if they miss a rank test, they may take a break forever. In fact, it gets even more complicated. One of the reasons why sometimes it's hard to keep family memberships alive is that because you have family members of different ages and different physical abilities, it's hard to get them all ready at the same time. Before you know it, each person in the family is a different rank and may have different classes to go to, and that just mucks up the great work you've done as far as adding a family membership. So by allowing people to progress at their own rate of speed, by doing something that is perhaps the most genius thing we've come up with, and here it is, write this down. We will reward what we want repeated, and what we want repeated is a student to show up for class. And our goal is for every student to come to class at least 2 times per week. Now, there's always an exception where they may have to come a little less, or perhaps you can provide an opportunity where they can come more. But if all your students took 100 lessons from you each year, 100 classes a year, you would keep them. So we're rewarding what we want repeated, and what we want repeated is attendance, and not just attendance where you show up and bow in, but attendance where you show and bow in and give your absolute best. And from that experience, you are awarded a class credit that is marked against the number of classes needed to change rank. So not only are we able to keep families together because they're taking class together, we're also able to allow the less athletic person to still excel and actualize whatever potential they may have. So by making this shift to attendance-based rank certification, everything has improved. We're not distracted. Our students all have a sense of progress. We're rewarding what we want repeated. And as a result of this, retention is improved. The only way you can keep your students longer if they understand where they are in the grand scheme of things, what they're doing, and what's required of them next. And if you reduce what's required of them, other than giving their absolute best in class, you'll keep your students longer. So I know that's sort of stirred the pot a little bit. So questions, confusion, concerns, what do you have about it? Yes, sir. Master Heckelman, go ahead, sir.
I think we do that for the most part. We do ceremonies. We do make it a thing because we think the students like it, but we don't really test because we don't do kata or any
Yes.
any kind of choreographed anything. So our techniques are just basic fighting techniques, and they do get better by class based. I like that, and that
Yes, sir.
we don't use that wording, but that's what it is. But the thing instead of the kata, what we do is I want them to get better conditioning wise.
Okay.
So say it's 3 months per belt. We have a lot of belts. We have 16.
Yes, sir.
So we like the whole belt ceremony thing. It's kind of the parents like and stuff. But I understand that we do more than anything. It's based on attendance, just like that. But
Yes.
I do throw in the conditioning where when you go to say green belt, you have to be able to do X amount of this, X amount of this, and X amount of this. And then, it's not like CrossFit level, but they have to show some kind of conditioning because it would really bother me if on the black belt ceremony, which we all go to Hawaii for, it's a big ceremonial thing. I don't, it would kind of look bad on me as the instructor if some of my guys had huge bellies and they couldn't even walk down the street without being winded. So that conditioning part is my main concern. What do you say to that?
Oh, I'm in absolute agreement with you. And I think to have a well-rounded program, all your students do need to be challenged physically. But I did leave something out, and that is ranks are earned in class based on attendance until they're testing for black belt. Then we release the hounds, and there's an event that they prepare for. And when I said that they prepare for, they show up here at the headquarters at 8 a.m. and they probably leave at 8 p.m. So it's an all-day event, and it makes it quite memorable. But what you're going to hear from Master Clark when he joins us is that the purpose of having a color belt ranking system is to prepare a student to test for black belt, not
Mhm.
prepare them to get ready for their yellow belt. And again, I'm sure all of us have different experiences, but I want you to realize this. The one thing that I know happened to every single student who ever quit was this. They didn't take their last class. I'm sorry, I misspoke. They didn't take their last test. Missing the testing throws everything out of whack. And the truth is, if we want to keep people, everyone has to progress at the same rate of speed. And this is how you also keep families together. To maintain a family-based organization, your life gets really easy. Families are just wonderful having your academy. They're a great source of referrals. They become a fantastic reservoir of talent to hire in the future. Right now, a lot of us are stuck with this idea that we have to hire teenagers to help us out. But unfortunately, the average teenager doesn't have the wherewithal to really support our effort. But if when you enroll more families, and the key is to make certain that the mother can progress with the kid, before you know it, you have a whole crew of folks you can select from to help you. But as far as physical conditioning, I think that's stellar. You have to be fit in order to enjoy a nice lifestyle. You have to be fit in order to protect yourself. So I do agree. Yeah, you do have to have some type of physical regimen.
So I like that, and we actually do that. It's great minds think alike. Our guys pretty much we say to do whatever, but as long as show me they're pushing, they usually go from belt to belt. But we have brown black, which is right before black, and that one's kind of a plateau, and that's when we get them ready for their black belt. And that's perfect. Then
Yes.
so they can go bum bum bum. But once they hit brown black, now I mean, you might have slacked off before, this and that, but to get to black, now you guys, so that's kind of my gauntlet right there. So
I follow
you
you.
guys do
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah. Well, there's two things I want to add. First off, and this is a serious question, okay? In your mind's eye, you being the owner, operator, the manager, the instructors, does earning the black belt equal you can instruct? Does black belt equal instructor?
No.
But if you think it does, it's because you're making it mandatory that your students have a depth of knowledge and know-how equal to that of an instructor. And if you do that, the person who doesn't have the ambition to become an instructor, he's going to fall off the path. This idea that if you're a black belt, you can teach is a great idea. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for most. So perhaps one of the steps you need to take is to create a segregation between a student who earns a black belt and a student who's a black belt instructor, which automatically lends itself to you creating perhaps another program, a program designed to create professional instructors in concert with helping students earn black belt. They're not the same thing. So when I visit a studio and I see that 7-year-old yellow belt kid struggling to figure out should he turn left or turn right, I know we're doing him a tremendous disservice. We are basing his ability on his memory or his coordination or his level of athleticism. I want to discount that right there. And in my mind, I think this: if I can get this kid to show up 300 more times, he's going to be good. All things being equal, you train a student for 300 classes, I train a student for 300 classes. If you're requiring testing, what ends up happening is the bulk of my students end up becoming not only larger in number, but better physically. It's the training, ladies and gentlemen. How many times have we forgone that? A student misses a few weeks, we do a makeup class, and the next thing always testing. A student misses testing entirely, we do a makeup testing regimen. So I want you to realize that by removing color belt tests, it allows you to stay more hyper-focused on what's needed most, and that is to build this membership, to add people on, to get families involved in your membership, your program, and of course, upgrade students. So I think we are thinking alike, but it isn't until black belt that the hammer drops and there is a physically challenging experience to go from a color belt rank to a level of black belt. Now, beyond black belt, let's talk about that for a moment. I can only imagine that most, if not all of you, somewhere in your academy, you have plastered up on the wall, we're a black belt academy, we're a black belt school, this is where black belts train. But where are the black belts? So one of the reasons why we sometimes don't keep black belts, and again, this is our observation, it's not true in every case, but one of the reasons why you don't keep people beyond black belt is that we're not helping them set goals. Here's a question. You guys just jot the answer down. To go from first degree to second degree, how long does it take? What's required? To go from second to third degree, what's required? Most of the requirements have to do with time, not necessarily a number of classes or a number of training events. It typically has to do with time and a little higher level of knowledge of content. What if I told you it might be a better way to go from first to second degree instead of 18 months of training or 24 months, whatever your cycle is? How about this? 300 classes. To go from first to second, 300 classes in a class designed to promote black belts. Here in Jacksonville, as well as Sacramento, we have black belt only classes. 30, 40, 50, 60 people line up. because we help our students understand two things. They can set and establish a long-term goal beyond first degree black belt and how to get to it. Instead of being overly complicated about going from one rank to next, let's put in the work. So go from first to second, 300, second to third, 300, third to fourth, 300. At fourth, fifth, and sixth, 400 classes. Seventh, eighth, and ninth, 500 classes. Typically as we advance through the ranks, classes go out the window. But what if you did set that standard? I think two things would happen. One, you would create a more athletic black belt. And second, you would be delivering on the promise of keeping students for the balance of their life and letting them embrace martial arts as a lifestyle. So in addition to class credits to the color belt, we also measure class credits and knowledge of content from first degree on. And as a result of that, if those of you who have visited Jacksonville, you have to be impressed with the number of black belts that come to our trainings and certification. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them. And that this is one of the most important reasons why we've been as successful as we have been, where everyone knows how to get to black belt, and getting to black belt is the starting line, not the finish line that they cross. So that's the concept that that has evolved here in Florida with Grandmaster Clark, as well as Master Peschke in California. And at first, it's a little confusing. After you get through the confusion, then there's concern about what will the students think, what my older students think. And then comes this celebration, realizing you finally figured out how to promote ranks through the color belt system to keep people longer. And if you do this, not only do you improve the retention, you improve the net result of having a school full of black belts. So when you read that sign, "We're a Black Belt Academy," it actually means something. All right, more questions about this or comments or concerns about
Rich Silver had his hand up for a moment. I'm not sure if it was on purpose or by accident.
I'm sorry, who was it?
Yeah, I was just so I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Are we saying that the only criteria we're utilizing to progress them through the belts is their attendance? So the way I've done it is a combination of attendance. There is a knowledge base that they have to be able to demonstrate to a degree. It doesn't have to be 100%. Most tests in the world, you don't have to have 100 to pass. You have to have, but they got to be able to demonstrate at least a competency. And I do have a minimum time frame that's within grade, because I just feel before then they're just not going to be able to show that competency on how to do the how to do those techniques. Also, I don't actually do and I like your feedback on this. I promote within class. So while they're training, I'm always doing little pre-testing with them. They don't even really know that's what I'm doing. I know whether they're, quote, going to pass a test or not. And then what I wind up doing is on some certain day, I'll have them demonstrate a whole bunch of stuff. And then I'll have a couple of them that I know that I'm going to be doing it, and they'll be rewarded. So then the whole class is there, and they could all, everybody's like, hey, if I show up, that might be the day I get promoted, as opposed to setting aside. The only big promotion day would be the black belt test day.
Okay,
so that's the questions I have on it. Yeah.
All right, well, let me take a stab at it. First off, when we talk about attendance, it doesn't mean you simply punch in and walk out. You have to show up in class and give it your best. And a lot of folks are concerned about, what about that goofy kid? Well, now you have real leverage, and you can pull little Timmy aside and say, Timothy, I'm a little disappointed. I expect a little bit more from you, because unfortunately, I will not be able to award you full class credit unless you pick it up, young man. I mean, it's instant supercharge. But to go back to the what you said a moment ago, a student might come to class because they don't know when they're changing rank next. Although that might be a pleasant surprise for some, it's a disappointment for most. Tell your students what you expect of them. Let them satisfy that expectation, then award them. For example, everyone here in Jacksonville knows that on class 10, you get a stripe. On class 20, you get a stripe. On class 30, you'll be awarded your new rank. In Sacramento, it's a little bit different. We do every fourth class we stripe, and they have a total of 16, but we have more belts than what's down here. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Say again.
Oh, no. I was actually the one cutting you off. My apologies. But yeah, we do kind of have that. So I have for each one of the rank structures, I broke my program. I broke it off into programs so that it's goal oriented. So you got a couple of ranks within each program. They're purchasing in groups of programs. And within that, to get from this point to this goal is all laid out. And part of that is when you make a certain amount of classes, you get a stripe on one side of the belt. when you get a certain progression towards the next belt, you have a stripe on the other side of the belt. So, so like we say, if there's two stripes going from white to white, black, white with black stripe, you might have two stripes on your left side that's towards that next belt, but you might have, if it takes 3 months, you'll have 3 stripes for each month that you've completed full classes on that month. So it also gives me a visual. I could just look at their belts and I could tell what their attendance is versus what their ranks are. So I actually do have building blocks that they have a written thing that they can refer to. They know what they need to study to progress. And, everybody looking at him can see, hey, little Billy has got this many stripes on there. I can see he makes a lot of attendance class, and he's made his next ranking towards the next belt.
Well, it sounds like you've given
about 2 different belts within each program.
Well, it sounds like you give us a pretty heavy thought, but the question is it scalable and did it work? So go back and look at all the people you've enrolled in the time span that it would typically take to earn a black belt and ask the question, how many made it? I can tell you that the students who enroll here, about 25% earn the rank of black belt. And hey, I'll compare that to anyone in the country. In other words, if we sign up 100 people within 300 classes, 20% of those 100 people will have been awarded the level of black belt. So that's what you got to ask too. It works for the people who are there. For example, everyone tells me, hey, parents love going to certification test. Yeah, the parents who love going to certification test. But it's been my experience that on any giving test, if you're doing rotations, 40% of your students don't test. And if 40% of your students are not testing, all those students are at risk. So we've removed that as a barometer of success, and we look for independent progress solely based on attendance. But it's proven to be a dynamite way of keeping track of everyone. And also, again, by rewarding what you want repeated, you'll get more of what you want. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Silver. I appreciate your input. Let's go ahead and open the floor for just a couple of the concerns.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
When you're doing, we're in the process of transitioning our graduation happening in a couple of weeks to doing it in class, and I'm actually writing everything up right now. How do you?
Can I stop you? May I stop you just for a moment, please?
Yes.
When we say we're doing it in class, when I say we're doing it in class, the student knows. In fact, I didn't complete what I was trying to explain to Mr. Silva. They know what they need to do next. It's the not knowing that creates confusion. So the way it simply works is based on their classes at the end of the lesson, they'll be called up if they need to be awarded a stripe or a belt. It's not a great fanfare. It's just come on up, Timmy. Congratulations. Bow them, tie the belt on. Done. But go ahead.
Right. So, yeah, but this one we had announced we were going to do it April 5th. So we're going to change it to the week of, we're going to do everybody. And then it's written up that in the future, it'll be when you're ready. In the terms of when you're ready, do you notify parents ahead of time so that they're able to be there to take pictures? Or do they not know it's going to happen?
Matt Space, go ahead and chime in. Tell them the protocol that we use in California.
Yeah, we use, we scan. All right. So we use Spark to print out barcode labels that go on paper attendance cards. And the reason why we went back to the paper cards versus the kiosk was because kids and adults both are very visual. So for each class they attend, every so many classes, they get a stripe, and it's actually on their attendance card in that box. As we date each box with a little stamper, boom, boom. Okay. And on class 5 or 10 or however many you do it, it says on there in the box that they will get a stripe. It says stripe, 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 new belt. So the students know, and we'll even ask them, hey, who's going to get a new stripe today if they do their best in class? And hands will go up. Okay, great. Let's watch these guys closely. It's a great motivator where they realize, 2 more classes, I get a stripe. 3 more classes, I get my next belt. And it's a great way to further boost retention and encourage participation. But they all are in on it. The parents sees it, the kids see it. So now for their first belt, we go above and beyond, and we let them know, hey, next class, Tim, you'll be earning his very first stripe ever. Make sure you're here. Make sure you have your phone out and ready to take a picture. You're not going to want to miss it. We even, at the end of class, we call up everyone who's getting a stripe or a belt, and then we call up the parents and take a photo of them all, because I want to reward the parents. They're the clients. And we post it in our VIP private group. We'll send them the picture. You know, we really want the parents. It's the parents I've got to connect with. And you know, all of you guys on this call, I'm assuming have been teaching martial arts for a lot of years. And I know you've heard mommies say, well, I could never get up there and test. I could never remember all those moves at one time. I could never. That was a big factor too. The reason why we have 50% parents in our we'll have 40 people in class, literally half, sometimes more, will be adults, moms, dads, and taking away the day and date testing, putting them up there on display and making them perform in front of everybody was a huge key factor in being able to draft them all onto the floor. Hey, let's not worry about how good you are in 20 or 30 classes. Let's get you ready for black belt testing in 300 lessons from now when they have the confidence to get up there and go for it, not after 8 weeks when they're still scared to death. So, reward, like Master Merton said, reward what you want repeated. You know, if you're committed to a kiosk, yeah, you got to send out more text messages. You know, if you use a paper attendance card, we provide a template for people that are on board with us. It's real easy to use and modify if you like, but it gives them a visual every single time. It's actually part of our tour on how we help students set and achieve goals and create accountability, because every time they come to class, they have their record of attendance. And every time they complete a belt, they start a new card. We just print up a new label and they get a new card, right? The goal is to run through those cards to kind of level up each time, every time. Is, you know, because I know like some of you guys used cards before that were good for like a year. They get nasty and gross. No, skip that. I want them to complete a card, complete another card, complete another card, move up in rank.
And when you collect these cards at the front of class, you can set up a rank station and segregate them based on number of lessons, what has to happen. But there's something I want to add before we move on to a different topic, and that is, I get bombarded with all these advertisements about, you know, add adults to your school, and we're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. We're doing kickboxing or some type of fitness-minded martial art program, or maybe something totally disconnected from your current curriculum to attract adults. Listen, we figured it out. The reason why you don't have a lot of adults is because the program looks too difficult. It's too much to remember, too much to do. And as Master Pesci said, as a mommy, I can't get up in front of a big group like that and perform all those moves. If you want more adults, soften how a parent can participate with their kid. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have a badass program somewhere else, but I want you to realize that the bulk of your business, whether we like it or not, happens to be children. And every kid is attached to at least one parent. So literally, you could double your roster if we simply invite more parents to join something that they believe they can do. And I'm just telling you from experience, I've been doing this for a long time, that testing prevents a lot of parents from getting involved in the membership with their kid. So give it some thought, and you know, we're available to brainstorm with you and overcome whatever ideas might be holding you back. But it is the key to successfully having more adults in your membership without having to pick up some secondary program to attract them. You know, and the advantage is this: there are very few things that a parent can do with their child year round. We happen to be one. But don't put up the blocks preventing parents, particularly the mothers, from thinking they can't do it because we've made it too challenging initially.
And that initially is the key. It's not that you're black belt. You know, people don't get class credit for showing up and doing nothing. We had a young man in Elk Grove the other day, you know, too chatty. Hey, you know, do your best, do your best, do your best. Okay, your class is over. He was supposed to get a stripe. We had a conversation. Hey, you know what, sir? I'm not able to give you class credit today. So when you come back next week, you'll be able to earn your stripe if you do your best. You know, and then we had a conversation with mom about it too. And she was in full support. She's like, no, you're right. That's why we have him here. So you are still in full control of a couple things. Number one, you get to dictate how many times a student gets to come to class. Or if you've promised that they can come unlimited times, you can dictate how many class credits they get per week. You are never held hostage. You know, you can do it a number of ways. You know, we control how many times the students can train each week. You can we have some academies that they'd already, you know, promise that a student can train 6 days a week. Well, you can earn 3 class credits each week, and the additional classes are extra training that you get to improve you, but you don't get class credit for them for rank advancement. Or you can. I mean, the thing is, we can help you shape how you want your students to progress and make it fit like a glove.
I will make comment about that though. If your child graduates a year early from high school, everybody's boasting about that. So this idea that I got to slow it down, come on, change your mindset. Black belt is the beginning, not the end. So, and again, people are doing all kinds of crazy things to increase retention. Everything from having birthday celebrations at the academy to getting awesome cards, all that stuff. The truth is, what they want from you is a sensation of progress. And the way we can deliver on that is to highly motivate these folks to come to class, give their best, and reward that. Okay, I'll move on to the next concern. When we introduced the idea that when you enroll people, ask for the last month's tuition. If you do this, it'll change your life. So let's change the topic. Now, when we enroll people, what we typically do is we have a phantom initial investment or a down payment. That's an amount of money that we can leverage as an incentive to get people to enroll at the end of their very first lesson. And let me just give you a loose example. Let's say that I have a membership fee of $300. And when somebody decides to join today as an incentive, I will discount that $300. Now, sometimes you can apply the value of whatever trial they're using. It's called a drop close. And a drop close is when you incentivize the decision to enroll by reducing the amount of money it costs to enroll. Why do we do it? Because it works. And what we explained about the membership is, and the way the tuition works, to begin your training, you'll need to take care of your first and last month's tuition. So let's get started. Now, why am I asking for the last month's tuition? Well, one of which, I need to steadily improve my income. But this also resolves the issue of people saying, well, what if he wants to quit? So this is a soft way of introducing the idea that of how you can quit if this membership is no longer a perfect fit. Now, for those of you that know me for many, many years, I think you'll agree that I was pretty hardcore about quitting. Yeah, you can quit, but you still got to pay. But the problem is now that we have the internet, you will get beat up if you do keep somebody's money who wants it back, or if they want to cancel. So listen to this. By inviting them to pay the last month, you can introduce the idea that in the event this is no longer a perfect program for your youngster, just give us a 30-day notice. And we have that tuition, no harm, no foul. And this way we can depart as friends if that's needed, but you're always welcome back. If you do this, you're resolving 3 things simultaneously. Number 1, you're generating more income. Number next, you're helping them make a deeper financial commitment, which typically has a lot to do with how well that membership performs. But third, now the issue of what if is removed. Come on, how many times have you heard it in your career? Well, what if he wants to quit? What if he becomes disinterested and wants to be a soccer player? I mean, we've heard that our entire career. Let's address it. And the way you address is by asking for the last month's tuition. And if they're concerned about it, you tell them, well, in the event that it's no longer a perfect fit, just give us a 30-day notice. That is why we ask for the last month. And what's really interesting is that when you get better at asking for that last month and you collect it, if you choose to have the entire membership prepaid, it invites that. The more money they pay at the point of sale, the more likely they'll pay the rest. And sometimes they'll pay the rest right here and now when you ask. Mass Pesky, you want to add something to that? About asking for the
No, I mean, it's just part of the process. We present enrolling the family, we fall back to enrolling the student, then we put it on sale, and then we give it away. And
the goal is for every sale, every new enrollment, here is your goal. Let me give it to you. You got to collect $500 on the single membership and just add $1,000 on the family. So if you enroll 8 singles and 2 families, how much will you generate? It was about $6,500. There's a lot of money to be made at the front end if you simply ask. But the challenge that a lot of you guys deal with is that, well, wait a minute now, they're kind of new to it. They're not really sure if this is the right thing. I want to make it seemingly more affordable so I can enroll more people. But what you're going to find is little money now typically means little money later. So get a little bit better at presenting your membership, helping them recognize the benefit, then ask for the money. And the way it sounds is like this. And ma'am, the way the tuition works, you pay your first and last month to begin. So we're off to the races. So let's get started. Well, how much do I got to pay? Whatever it is, $5.95. Now, one of the reasons why you also need to ask for that last month is to amp up the perception of value. If you want to make something look more valuable, put a bigger price tag on it. So by asking for the balanced initial investment first and last month, I've asked for a significant amount of money. Now, you will be pleasantly surprised that most people will pay it. But those who can't pay it, not all is lost. That's when we can do a fallback. Well, listen, I really love the program. I think my kid would do great here, but I don't have close to $600. So now we can fall back by collecting a lesser amount of money, but not changing the overall tuition. And this is what that sounds like. Well, Mrs. Lewis, we're not going to let money get in the way. So let's do this. Let's go ahead. We have to take care of the initial investment and pay your first month's tuition to begin. Then you ask for the dough. So a fallback simply means that I've asked for money, I've established the value, they can't pay it, I fall back, collect a lesser amount, but again, without wheeling and dealing. I just don't worry about the last month. And this will improve your close rate as well as the amount of monies that you collect.
So Pastor Ray asks, so are you giving stripes for amount of classes taken instead of skills acquired? I would say yes and no. See, to me, the number of classes they take is synonymous with the skills they can acquire. If I am putting them on the spot to test them, more often than not, you're rewarding them for their ability to memorize a combination or a pattern, left, right, forward, back, high block, low block. However, we construct the lesson plans and we deliver the lessons. If you're participating in the class and you're giving your best, you're going to learn the skills. If you don't participate at your best, well, then we don't give you class credit. And you have to achieve those class credits in order to get your stripe.
And there are standards that need to be performed as far as how a student lines up, the O turning to the right. And when Master Cart comes in, I hope he's able to make it, he'll address that concern for you. But this idea that my orange belt has to be the best orange belt is a great idea. The problem is it's not scalable. I want someone to gain confidence in my membership by putting in their best work and me awarding that effort. And if that cycle maintains and keeps the momentum, before you know it, you've developed a dynamite student. Because in your experience, you've dealt with those kids that were physically unathletic, and they became really good. Why? They survived the test of time.
Yes.
So if you have any upset about this idea, well, wait a minute, he doesn't know that song on two form. That's holding you back. And it's preventing the people that need your help the most to succeed. It's preventing that. Listen to this. It's easy to lay claim to the person who's a natural athlete. But let me tell you, let me see what you do with unathletic people. If you lined up all your students, let's say you had 100 students, you lined them up. Here's the breakdown. 10% would be exceptional. 10% would be athletically gifted, flexible, coordinated, memory sharp as a whip. These kids they see something once and they can copy it, they can emulate it. That's 10%. On the other end of the spectrum, you have about 20% that are challenged, whether it be physical or mental or emotional. So about 30% of your student body, the truth is, it is what it is. About 70% of your student body is average at best. That's what you have to focus on. Now, for that accelerated student, well, there's always another membership or training program you can provide for them. But listen, we are in the group instruction business. How big is that group? If you're doing an individualized testing format to secure rank, your group will never be as big as our group. Oh, Fred, it sounds like you're a McDojo. Now, we're an organization that wants to help a lot of people. And we know that the people that need our help the most are least likely to be athletic or proficient for the first year or so. But if we can continue to encourage them and let us at it, let's have 300 lessons with this kid, some big things happen for everyone. So we've kind of softened our approach. And as a result of that, it's had enormous impact on not just retention, but again, maybe I'm going too far here, but also by finding the people that we can build a career with. You know, what's really interesting here is that if you come to Jacksonville, you're going to meet some of the instructors that have been here for 25 years. And if you go back in their history, where they started, half of them was kind of lumpy bumpy. They were not athletically inclined because they were so damn young. So that's another consideration. But if you're not getting what you want in terms of active membership and income, you got to look where the traffic jam is. And I think promotional testing is a traffic jam for most organizations. So
Yeah.
we've just reinvented it.
So, and so a couple things happen. Number one, you eliminate the distraction we talked about at the beginning of the call. Number two, anyone on this call, if you have a student for, let's say you have a student for about a year, they're probably going to be about a green belt level. And we have a student for about a year. They can probably be about a green belt level. The difference is we will have many, many, many more of them, probably twice as many for a couple of reasons. One, we didn't make it as hard to get to that first stage, to complete their beginner stage of their training. And number two, we made it easier for mom and dad to get involved. We've eliminated the major roadblocks for getting parents on the mat. And I think on our last call, we went through the 6 different reasons why you want to enroll families, but I guess before we even go down that road, we had another question on here from Mac. So students are rewarded their new rank during regular scheduled class after accomplishing a certain number of classes. The answer for that is yes. For especially low-level color belts, absolutely. There is not a class that goes by that we are not awarding stripes and belts at the end of class. I mean, students, we actually tell the truth. People progress at their own pace, and it's based on their ability to train versus a date on the calendar. You complete hours training, you move up in rank, period. And again, you do have to really try. You have to give your best effort in class. You don't get rewarded just because you showed up. But if you're training and putting in the work, yeah, you get rewarded. And we do it in class. It's been magnificent.
But hold on now, if you're not having a formal testing, are you able to charge certification fees?
Oh, yes.
Explain that part.
We charge $75 for each rank advancement, and that's what we call it. It is the certification fee for your rank advancement. In fact, we just had a family on Thursday that prepaid for their family of 4, mom and 3 kids are all training, and they just signed up on a basic membership, and she prepaid their first 6 ranks for the whole family. For the whole family. So she said, "Yeah, run my card, $1,200, done. Let's go." Why would she do that? Well, it saved her some money, and she's really into it. It's become her thing. So the next question is, Kevin says, the day after signing up for membership, new topic, the day after signing up for membership, I had a parent decide the day after that the child really didn't want to and asked for a refund. They had paid first and last, recommendations on how to handle the refund cancel request that happened right after signing up. Well, what we do, if a mom calls up, because it does happen occasionally, they come in, you do a really good tour, do a really good orientation lesson. It's very emotional. They sign on the line that is dotted, they give you the money. Occasionally they go home, they kind of sober up and go, "Ooh, what did we just commit to?" Okay. Occasionally you get that phone call. Our operating procedure is to basically walk them off the cliff, revisit why they came in the first place. So I'm not going to call them back without that PA handy. We're going to talk about the same benefits that they were looking for last night when they came in. We're going to revisit that emotional hot point. And then we're going to let them know, hey, you know what, let me just put you at ease. Let's go ahead and utilize that 2-week trial that you started with by taking advantage of our 14-day guarantee. You bring your child into class like we have them scheduled. And if over the next 2 weeks he doesn't absolutely love it, and you don't see the full value of everything you're doing, we'll cancel your membership and we'll give you every penny back. No harm, no foul. And if they say, "Oh, well, I don't want to, I just want my money back." Well, you've already paid for a portion of the training. Let's at least use that. We won't run your card again. And that also works quite often. And on rare occasion, you got to give them their money back.
Well, but there might be one more consideration. That is, was there someone else involved in the decision that you didn't know about? Typically, if somebody signs up and they enthusiastically pay the balance initial investment and the first last month's tuition, they are sold. And then they go home and have a conversation, not with a 5-year-old, but have a conversation with maybe the spouse or an in-law or a grandparent. Before you know it, their mind was changed. So statistically, when somebody quits like that, it's because we didn't know that somebody else was involved in the decision. But don't you worry, sir, we got you covered. As a matter of fact, we're going to make sure that all decision makers are there so that doesn't happen. But I bet, I'd be willing to bet you lunch and maybe a cup of coffee that this person went home and enthusiastically shared what she did, and the person told her she was crazy. You can get karate at the YMCA for 15 bucks. However, if you get more than one person involved in the decision, that happens less frequently. And here's what it sounds like. Once you book an appointment, whether you sold a trial or you gave a trial away, it makes no difference. Before you hang up the phone, here's what you do. You say, Mrs. Lewis, let me tell you this. Most families know after the very first lesson if they found the right martial art academy. And if that's the case for you, you know, if you love it as much as I think you will, I'll even show you how to save money by enrolling. Okay. And they go, well, okay. Now here it comes. Ready? And if that's the case, does anyone else need to be involved in this decision? Then you prime the pump. Maybe your spouse or an ex, or how about the grandparents? Does anyone else need to be involved in the decision to start in a martial art program? And then you shut up. What you've just done is you found that you're going to find the naysayer. Do not present a membership unless they tell you they can make the decision. So we do it over the phone, we do it over the front counter, and we do it after the introductory lesson to triple down on this idea that they can make a decision. Now, here's what we've learned. The more committed the person who signed on that membership is, the less likely it'll bounce back. But to make sure you have a firm commitment, we have to find out if anyone else is involved. Now that was a long answer now, wasn't it? So the moral of the story is this. First off, if somebody cancels a membership a few days after the fact, I don't see it as bad news. I see it as good news. Because apparently you were pretty good at influencing this person, even though they couldn't afford it. And as Master Pesky said moments ago, once they get home and sober up, they'll realize, oh, wait a minute. That guy just helped me see my kid in a different light. It looks like it's really the right program, and I want to do it, but now reflecting on my finances, I can't do it. That's okay. Just allow this person out, refund the monies, and tell them the door is open. And say this to them, Miss Lewis, unfortunately, now wasn't the right time for your child to get started, but the goals you want for him are in alignment with this membership. So when things improve for you and you're ready to pick up what you left off, just give us a call. Be positive. If you're not getting cancellations, you're not presenting enough people. Simple as that. And again, of course, I understand how disappointing it is, but that's just a fact of life. You know, 10, 20% of your memberships, they don't move forward. Just one of the efforts in our business. Did another question just pop up? What was it?
No, but to circle back one more time, you know, I remember when my staff would get that to happen, and I would just congratulate them. I'd say, you know, Mr. Wong, for example, you know, Mr. Wong, he was really bummed. He felt defeated. I said, hey, don't sweat it. We can't save them all. But here's the good news. Your orientation lesson, your presentation was so good that they enrolled anyway. And it wasn't until they went home and sobered up after the big party that they realized, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. I mean, we had one mom one time, she called us literally crying. And she goes, I want to do this so bad, but it was like the 12th of the month. She goes, we haven't even paid our rent yet. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah. So we tried to salvage it. Truth is, she had no money. But the presentation was so good, she had to have it. She wanted it. She bought it anyway. We ended up giving her money back. You know, what are you going to do? But I would congratulate and commend you or whoever did the enrollment presentation, because it was dynamite, or else it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
There you go. Woo.
Well, perhaps Master Clark will make it in, but in the meanwhile, let's do some takeaways. So based on what we've talked about in this Q&A session, what do you now know that you can implement and you have confidence that's going to improve things? And what we've spoken about so far was attendance-based rank certification. We talked about the reasons, the purpose of asking for first and last. We talked about the cancellation policy and the idea that most cancellations happen after the fact because a third party was involved. And if we simply realize we can find out who that third party is before they show up, your enrollment and retention will skyrocket. So takeaways. Who's first? I'm just going to start calling people. Mr. Kevin, what did you take away from this?
That whole last 10 minutes.
Tell me about it. Which part?
Well, I think it's just getting comfortable with, sometimes people are going to, decide to cancel, and kind of leaving the door open for them, in a positive way, that you're going to be there for them when they're ready. And then also having some options to have them kind of go through and get through those buyer's remorse jitters afterwards. Say, hey, we have some options, try this out. And it's not just okay, you want your money back. This is the only answer. There's a couple of different options to go through to give them some alleviate a little bit of that pressure, to give them a couple extra chances to stick with the program if they really want to.
And in your mind's eye, when you address this challenge, there's two directions you can go. You can be angry or be concerned. Anger typically is one step above frustration. Concern is heartfelt. Mrs.
Yes,
Lewis, I
sir.
realize now is not the right time to be involved in our membership, and that's okay. I know you found the right martial art academy, so when the timing's right, I'm going to swing that door wide open for you. I look forward to visiting with you again. Be nice, guys. Be nice. The truth is, people are going to quit, and they typically quit at the most inappropriate time. They just quit. And our job, though, is to extend ourselves and do our absolute best to be who you say you are by not voicing upset or concern. Is it disappointing? Yes, but they can't ever know it. Thank you, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
What about the new guy, Mr. Smalley? Eric's, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on.
Hello, Mr. Mertens. It's been a few years.
Tell me about it. How long has it been?
I think it was 2012. I was working with you and Mr. Gaston for a while.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. In Springfield, Illinois, right?
My school's in Kansas City, Missouri, but after I left Premier, I worked with you all a little bit when he was doing some math stuff with you. So it's been a while.
Well, fantastic. Welcome back, sir. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what's your takeaway from today's training?
My takeaway, my youth program, I feel like the promotions, I'm not a Premier school anymore, but I kind of follow their stripe testing, and for the kids, it's working pretty well.
Yes.
The adults, I'm a Krav Maga school, and I don't have as many adults as I used to doing these Krav Maga certifications. They just don't want to do the special forces selection, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours with Eric on a Saturday kind of thing. And so my takeaway is I really need to look at doing my adult program more according to their attendance and how much time they have on the mat. Like I said, people just aren't signing up on their Saturday afternoon to do these certifications, even when I included it in their membership fees.
Yeah. Well, again, one of the things we have to remember is that you're one out of how many? You've been training for how many years, sir?
I started training in 1986. I've been teaching professionally for 25 years.
Okay. All right. So for the last 25 years, you've been showing up.
Yeah.
And there was a point I was trying to drive home. Oh, the fact that you've been involved in this 25 years, what percentage of all the people that started in that year you started are still around? What do you think it might be? One in 1,000, 1 in 5,000, 1 in 10,000? You are the exception to the exception, not the rule. And this is what I'm about to share with you is a mistake I made for the first 10 years of ownership. I wanted my students, again, keyword my students to have my experience. But I was a kook. When you come visit Jacksonville, look at the distance between the beach community and where this headquarters is. I used to ride my bicycle. I mean, I was a 1 in 10,000. That's one of the challenges. You got to take a deep breath and say, wait a minute, my experience is my experience. I'm the exception, not the rule. Let me find a rule that can accommodate a larger number of people. Am I suggesting you become a belt factory? Absolutely. How else are we going to measure your success? And if the belts represent hours in training, everyone's going to improve. It's just a different way of looking at it. But this idea that my student needs to have my experience is a great idea. However, it will not work for most because you are the exception of the exception. Go back to 1986 when you first started training. How many people that did you meet in the first 5 years are still training? I'll wait. If they weren't teaching, no one.
One of my favorite instructors told me, for the old school guys, by definition, there's something wrong with us, and we can't look for students and customers that there's something wrong with them, because there's something wrong with us for having done this for 25, 30, 40 years.
Yeah. We say, hey, everyone on this call, you are the exception, not the rule, period. You're not normal, but that's a good thing. So Roman just dropped the link in the chat. For any of you guys that are not already, I know a lot of you guys are already clients and on board here. That's great. Love having you on these calls too. Thank you. But for any of you guys that are looking to get started, Roman just dropped the link into the chat. You can click that link. You can book a free 15-minute onboarding call with one of us, and we'll give you the information you need to take your school to a higher level, add at least $10,000 a month to your bottom line, and really make a difference for yourself and your students. Okay. So I think on that note, we got to wrap it up. Is there anything you want to add in closing, Master Merchants?
I hear Master Clark in the next room. He's on a call. I'm going to be here in Jacksonville for the next 3 weeks, and here's my promise: we're going to get him to join us a couple of times and gain his insight. And again, before you show up to these Q&A, conjure up some questions you might have in terms of what you need to know, what you need to find out to improve things at your academy.
Yes.
But thank you so much for being on the call. And for those of you that would like to have a one-off to figure out if we can help you in ongoing fashion, just schedule a call and we'll see how it works. All right. So in the meantime, thank you very much for being on the call, guys. And we'll talk soon. God bless.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
See you next
Bye.
Monday.